Don't mark this down as an automatic win for the Buckeyes. Mark Rogers TV with our first game preview of the season. It's the Thursday night opener and the first full weekend of college football 2017. Ohio State, number 2 in the country, at Indiana. The Hoosiers coming off a 6-7 campaign with new head coach Tom Allen, previously defensive coordinator, taking over for Kevin Wilson, now the offensive coordinator at Ohio State. Just consider the last 3 times these schools have met. Last year in Columbus, Buckeyes win at 38-17, but J.T. Barrett had an awful day, 9 of 21 passing for just 93 yards. He actually used his legs more than his arm in defeating IU. 137 yards rushing for J.T. The Buckeyes only led this one 24-17 in the third quarter. The defense really had to shut down Indiana in the second half in this one. The real nail-biter was 2 years ago in Bloomington. Zeke Elliott went off, or else the Buckeyes, number 1 ranked at the time, would have succumbed to a major upset. Indiana, 34-27, was at the 4-yard line with the end zone in sight to either tie the score at the gun or go for the 2-point conversion and the victory in the major upset over Ohio State. Again, number 1 team in the country. And then in 2014, Ohio State's run to a national championship may not have been if they hadn't completed a comeback in Columbus. They were down 20-14, and they came back to win 42-27. They were up by 1 with 10 minutes left and bailed out by 2 special teams plays by Jalen Marshall. This has been a close series, but Urban Meyer has gotten the wins over then Kevin Wilson, his new offensive coordinator. And speaking of Ohio State on offense, it's going to be interesting to see Kevin Wilson's offense take hold and see the improvement potentially of J.T. Barrett, who had a rough time down the stretch. Ohio State's offense just wasn't dismal against Clemson. That's the game that gets all the focus. They were marginal against Penn State, even Northwestern, shut down for most of the game against Michigan until the 2 overtime sessions. So Ohio State needs to prove something in the passing game. Better pass protection, and we're hearing good things out of 2 of the culprits in pass protection last year, the young players Michael Jordan and Isaiah Prince. Urban Meyer says they're much improved this year, just completely different players, according to Urban Meyer. That may be just fall camp talk. We shall see. It's an expectation at Ohio State that they hit on 60% of their deep throws in practice against either the 1s or the 2s. J.T. Barrett apparently hit over 90% of those throws, both in the spring, the summer drills, just with the team involved, and then in fall camp. Kevin Wilson's offense fits Urban Meyer's approach. Power running game. Mike Weber's going to be the guy, of course, in the power running game, but he's been hampered by a hamstring injury. And so J.K. Dobbins may get more touches, the fabulous freshman from Texas who's been wowing everyone at camp, especially his defensive teammates who can't get a hold of him in practice. So that's the Ohio State offense. Struggled much of last season compared to what we expect. Need to see a playmaker or 2 emerge on the outside against an Indiana defense that is much improved. So when you think Indiana football, despite typically thinking that they're just awful, since they've been decent, you think offense. Nate Sudfeld at quarterback, throwing the football all over the place. Kevin Wilson is an offensive guy, but he built a defense. He recruited for defense at Indiana. Check out these numbers. 41st in the country in total defense last year, 57th against the score, 46th against the run. But they were actually much better than that in the advanced metrics. This is an Indiana defense that 2 years ago in 2015 was 107th S&P plus. Last year, 31st in the country. That's the best Indiana has ever performed on defense in that metric, the advanced metric S&P plus. T. Gray Scales is one of the very best in college football. He shunned the pros to come back for his senior year at IU. Had 24 tackles for loss and 16 sacks, 125 total tackles. Marcus Olivers, his running mate at linebacker, he had 16 tackles for loss as well. In the secondary, Indiana brings back 11 defensive backs. Everybody comes back in the secondary, including their leader, Richard Fant, who had 3 interceptions. Consider this. Indiana placed top 10 in the nation in passes defense, 26, and also pass completion given up at 52%. Very stingy against the pass last year. All their defensive ends come back. They are a little bit soft in the middle and inexperienced there. All right, turn to the offense for Indiana. Richard Legault needs to improve and keep the ball out of the hands of the defense. He threw 5 interceptions in a loss against Wake Forest. He threw 17 total interceptions. And if you break down Legault's season into thirds, first 4 games, next 4 games, last 4 games, he digressed. As the competition got better, expectedly, he got worse against the competition. His passer rating plummeted from a high of 170 in the first 4 games to 106 in the final 4 games. He does have Nick Westbrook back, who caught 54 passes for almost 1,000 yards and 6 touchdowns. And Simi Cobbs, who missed all of 2016, is back after catching passes for 1,035 yards and 60 receptions in 2015. Okay, that vaunted IU running game with the likes of Jordan Lynch and or Jordan Howard, I should say, not the Northern Illinois quarterback. Jordan Howard, Tevin Coleman last year. Divine Redding ran for 1,122 yards and really didn't run against the better teams. He was only around 4 yards per carry, aside from the weak non-conference foes. The Indiana running game last year was nothing close to what it had been in the past. Tyler Natee and Devontae Williams averaged 3.7 yards per carry and about 400 combined yards. They are the 2 guys you're going to see on opening night against the Buckeyes defense that may turn out to be the best in college football. I expect this to be the best defensive line in college football, both from a talent, playmaking ability standpoint, and also in terms of depth and run-stuffing ability up the middle. Playmakers all over the place. And they do lose Michael Hill due to a suspension, but they've got so much depth up there. Plus, they have Tracy Sprinkle, who they expected to be a big-time player. He's back after missing 2016. Chris Worley replaces Raekwon McMillan. Worley was an outstanding outside linebacker. Now he's the Mike linebacker, makes all the calls, and has to replace McMillan. He's not as physically imposing, and there's some questions as to whether he's going to hold up for the entire season, but he's an exceptional playmaker and a hard hitter and has a nose for the football. Dante Booker, highly touted player who was hurt early in the first game last year, will be back for the Buckeyes at linebacker. All right, the secondary loses those 3 studs that win in the first round of the draft. So they're inexperienced in the secondary beyond Denzel Ward and Damon Webb, 2 of the best players in the Big Ten. But look out for Sean Wade and also Kendall Sheffield, the transfer from Alabama, to step up. They are 2 of the highly recruited players in college football. IU is going to give Ohio State a test, but the Buckeyes win this one 34-17. My thoughts right there. Would love to hear from you. Always enjoy getting the comments. Subscribe to my YouTube channel for the best in college football coverage. Also, like me on Facebook, follow me on Twitter, and we will discuss and debate college football. We are psyched for the opener, people. It's Ohio State. It's Indiana on Thursday night. We will be back with more previews from week 1 right here on Mark Rogers TV.